Hello, my name is Cole Foster. I am a valuation surveyor at Bradley Harris Limited. I understand you have a few queries regarding the lease extension process. I am going to talk you through the Leasehold Reform Legislation, which will cover information and procedures with regards to a lease extension. Before explaining the legislation, I would like to stipulate that a house is when a building is separated vertically and a flat is separated horizontally. I would also like to explain to you how you would define a freeholder and a tenant. The freeholder, also known as a lessor, owns a piece of land, and the tenant, also known as a lessee, owns the building built on top of this land. A lease is then created and a ground rent is paid by the tenant to the freeholder. There is also the possibility of an intermediate freeholder in place who also owns an interest in the property. The Leasehold Reform Legislation first started in 1967, which gave the tenant the right to enfranchise, which basically means purchasing the freehold, or extend the lease of their house. If the tenant decides to extend the lease of their house, an additional term of 50 years is added onto the original term of the lease, with a modern ground rent imposed. The modern ground rent is effective from the start of the new term. The tenant will pay a premium to extend the lease, which consists of compensation to the landlord for diminution in value of their interest and 50% marriage value if applicable. Diminution of value is calculated by capitalisation of the existing ground rents for the remainder of the term. A deferment rate is also used to calculate diminution of value, which works out the value of the property once the lease has expired and the freeholder receives the property with vacant possession. Marriage value is the value of the existing lease on the basis that the lease could not be extended. Marriage value is only applicable if the lease has less than 80 years of the term remaining. The marriage value is calculated using the graphs of relativity. Relativity is the percentage difference between a long length of lease and a short length of lease. The tenant may also choose to enfranchise, which in other terms means purchasing the freehold interest. Like extending the lease, the tenant will pay compensation to the freeholder for their value of the interest, along with 50% of the marriage value, and they will also have to pay compensation such as development value. This is where there is potential to develop on the site, which would therefore increase the value of the freeholder's interest. The Leasehold Reform Legislation also stipulates that you are to assume the flat is in good condition and assume that both parties, the lessee and the freeholder, have been following the terms of the lease. For example, if the property had been bomb damaged, you are to ignore this and value the property on the basis of the lease. In 1993, an Act was introduced which gave the right for tenants of flats to extend the current term of their lease by 90 years, with no ground rent paid, also known as a peppercorn ground rent. Compensation is paid to the freeholder for the diminution of interest, 50% of marriage value, and any other loss of interest to the freeholder. The Act also gave tenants of flats the right to collectively enfranchise, which is also known as a share of freehold. This involves the tenant paying a premium of the freeholder's interest, including 50% of marriage value and any other compensation, such as development value and hope value. Hope value is for non-participating tenants within a collective enfranchisement of flats. In essence, the participating tenants purchase the share of the freehold interest on behalf of the non-participating tenants. Now on to my role as a valuation surveyor. It is my responsibility to assist with the tenant's decision-making process, providing a valuation report and general advice, ultimately delivering my opinion of the premium payable. If acting for the lessee, with the input of a solicitor, a notice is served on the freeholder containing the premium the lessee is prepared to pay. The freeholder is then given a deadline as to whether they agree to the premium offered. If this is not initially agreed, the next stage involves negotiating the premium payable with the opposite side. If no agreement can be reached, the next plan of action is to prepare evidence to a leasehold valuation tribunal for determination.